All right, so we're on video section number 2. We're talking about credit scores. I think we're on number 2, right? Yeah, we just did number 1, I think, last time. So, credit report is a debt report, how well you can manage debt, and pop the myth that you need that to be a human being. So let's start with that. Okay, so we're going to stop there. So your homework last night was to do the video sections 2 and 3. So I just wanted to play the first part of that so that we could do some discussion on the credit report stuff. Let me get this thing pulled up. So yeah, okay, good. Samad, you're on. Michael, can you unmute?
Yeah, what's up? Sorry, I don't have my camera like connected. Like it's at the esports arena, so I don't have it connected. But Josh has a camera, and he's my roommate, so I can go on his camera if you want.
Okay, yeah, if you can get on the camera, that'd be great. So if you're having technical difficulties, I mean, you know, life is what it is. But otherwise, yeah, if it's there, I'd like you to be on. Okay, so do you think why do you think there's so many errors on credit reports? Why do you think these errors are difficult to remove? So first of all, did you guys, don't answer that one yet on paper. Have paper ready, by the way, paper and pen. We're going to do what we do in class, so you can get that. But so my brother does credit repair, and how many of you did the extra credit and pulled your credit report? Okay, Samad, looks like you're the only one, the lone soldier. All right, so you can still do it, by the way. I'm going to keep that open as an option today and tomorrow. Oh, Abby, you did too? Okay, good. So you can still have that open. Samad, did everything look fine for you? Did you have anything on there? Do you have any questions?
So like on my credit report, it was just my student loan. That was it.
Okay, good.
So like it makes sense because like I don't have any credit cards.
Okay. And Abby, what about you? Did yours look legit? Anything out of the ordinary or any questions?
No, it just said it was good and that I've paid all my payments.
Okay, so you saw where it showed the payments on time, and so we're going to do a little exercise later today on reading a credit report. So that's good. Like I said, in most classes, I'll have one student that has something kind of weird on it, and my brother actually does credit repair, and as Dave said in the video, it's really just credit correcting. There ends up being a lot of corrections sometimes over time, not for you guys because you haven't engaged as much in the fray with various things. So he has software and expertise in sending letters and fighting and it's all stuff you can do yourself, but that's what he does as a service to people, and he does pretty well for himself doing it too. So, all right, do you guys know anybody that's had identity theft insurance? Show of hands. Identity theft, somebody had their identity stolen and maybe something happened, maybe something didn't. Daly, who do you know that had that?
So it actually just happened to my parents.
Oh, really?
I don't actually know exactly what happened, but I just know that they had to go through a ton of stuff to fix it.
Okay. I had just here at OU within the last year, apparently there's a big hacker scheme that went through, and I got a little notice in the mail that said, your unemployment claim is being processed or something. And I'm like, okay, did I just get fired or what? So I called the HR department, and it turned out they were basically trying to file fraud unemployment claims. And so for that one, it's a big enough thing that I had to fill out a couple forms, but it didn't impact me too much. They didn't get into wrecking my credit or being able to take stuff out in my name. I had another deal back when I had a construction company, when I was doing real estate development. I got a call from a banker that said, is this your signature? And what it was a guy that did drywall contracting made up a contract and signed my name to it, forged my name, and got an advance of $280,000 to do this drywall job for our business. And so again, that particular one didn't impact me directly, but somebody was using my name to, it's a form of identity theft. So people do that stuff. And as we've heard on the video, sometimes it can lead to 2 to 3 hours worth of work that you're doing to try to get it fixed. So it's not fun to do. And identity theft insurance has been pretty cheap. I've had it off and on, so I'll kind of admit I'm not a must-have identity theft insurance. I think Dave comes across pretty strong on these videos, but these videos are a little dated too. So I'm not saying you don't need it. It's still alive out there. But it's something I was willing to take the risk on myself if I did have something happen. When they've had these security breaches, like, do you guys remember with Home Depot and Target within the last 5 years or so? They offered free credit insurance to be good to their customers. So even though I wasn't using a card at the time, basically any customer of Target, as long as I shopped there, I justified that I would let them pay for my free credit insurance for the year. So I've had it a couple different times. It's red flagged a few things, but it was never anything big. So, all right, let's see here. So let's turn, you guys open up your Brain Honey. If you haven't, you might not even have it open. So go ahead and open it. We're going to do an exercise with reading a credit report. So it's in chapter 8. I'll put it on the screen, but you guys, I think you're going to need to pull it up, and I'll pull it up on the screen as well. It looks like this at the bottom, reading a credit report. So maybe I'll pull it up on the screen with my computer to show you where it is. So in your activities, if you go down to chapter 8, chapter activities, reading a credit report, pull that thing open. And there's a bunch of questions that we're not going to do all of them right now, but I'm going to kind of have a round robin of some of the questions. And so if you go down to the very bottom, there's a copy of a sample credit report, the one that I just had flashed on screen. And it looks kind of small, so you're going to have to blow up your screen to get a good look at it. But you should have something like that. I have it on my screen right now if you look, but so what I'm going to do is we're going to go around the screen, and what I usually do in class is have a round robin. So on the chat box is how we're going to do it now. On the chat box, so the first person we're going to do a little race here. And so how old is this person? First person to put it on the chat box, you need to read the credit report and find out how old is this person. And first person on the chat box with the right answer is the winner. Might force you to do a little bit of math too, but oh, I see the chat box lit up here. Okay, who do we got? Who is first on the trigger? Yes, chapter 8, Samad, if you found it now. Raven's got 27. Abby says from 4/19/57. I think that's the winner. If I remember right, I don't have the actual answers down. I gotta look over myself. Because they're Abby, why don't you unmute? Where did you find that?
Right above credit history, It says
Right above.
date of birth.
Okay. So let me get my highlighter here. So date of birth right here, right? I don't know if you guys are looking at my screen, but I just circled the date of birth. So we've got that information on the date of birth. All right, next question. What is the highest account balance for this person? Chat box, what is the highest account balance? Okay, good. And I see Caleb and Taylor, we're getting the actual age calculated in there from 1957. Highest account balance. Okay, Caleb's got 9,388. So Caleb, if you could unmute for me, where did you get that number?
It was like below credit history, and it said high credit, and it was the one with the highest number.
Okay, below credit history. Let's see if I can get my clicker working here again. Are you down at the, is that to the bottom or towards
Go
the
up
top?
higher. Up higher, down a little bit. It's like if you have the little circle thing, just keep going down a little.
Oh, right here, high credit. Okay, so that was the highest amount charged for it. So the question was, what's the highest account balance? So that is correct. That's why I wanted to have you do that. That was the most that they had charged. But what's the highest outstanding balance right now? 3K. Looks like Michael got it. Okay, so 3,000 is the running balance. So it's got. So it's good that you saw that though. So it's got both the most that you've charged as well as your current account balance. Okay, good. What accounts have a zero balance? Well, we can see the zeros there. So we got the Sears, the Citibank, the Diners was closed. So those are the zero balances. Are there any collections or delinquencies on the report? This one you have to dig around a little bit. Collections or delinquencies on the report. And in the chat box, if you want to say where or how you found them, if there's any collections or delinquencies. Okay, we got a yep for the hospital from Caleb. Okay, next collection agency. Yes, down by those arrows. All right, so down at the middle part, get my arrow again here. I get used to this, using this screen. So collection reported, status unpaid. So this first one, client ABC Hospital. And then we've got the account number and some of that data. How much was the dollar amount? It's kind of weird to read these things. I don't know if any of you put that down yet. What was the dollar amount to the hospital? $978, good. So 978 is kind of buried right here in the middle. And then collection agency, Procall, a lien filed in Fulton County. Bankruptcy filed back in the day, discharged, had just assets of $780 in their bankruptcy, liabilities of $15,000. So this person, before they declared bankruptcy, owed about $15,000 to a variety of people. And then a judgment filed where John Doe sued our person here. I don't think our person has a name. So for the real estate, verified, and it was satisfied. So this was a judgment that so he lost a court case and then got it paid off. And then here's the former addresses. Samad and Abby, did you guys see your addresses listed in your report? Did you see where you had previous addresses where you lived? And maybe you guys haven't lived at very many locations, but it's kind of sometimes freaky to look at, oh my gosh, they knew where I was 15 years ago on a previous address.
They had my grandma's address as my address, and they only did that to fact check to see who I was.
Oh, really? Huh, interesting. Okay.
They had my mom's address and my brother's address.
Okay, and your present address. Yeah, so they're going to keep a track of those addresses as you move through time too. So yeah, so a lien, a judgment lien and a mortgage lien. A lien is the official name for something that attaches to your person and your credit. So if you have a lien, so when I sold real estate, somebody got a speeding ticket, 4 years ago, and they never paid it, and it was in the county, and they never came after them because it was only $120. Well, when they get their credit report pulled, it'll show that old judgment lien still against their name. And before they can buy a house, they have to pay the $120. And the reason is because the lien will stick to the property that they buy. So if they purchased a house, then the person who they owe $120 to, which would be the county, actually sticks on like a little leech and grabs onto the property. And then when they eventually go to sell the property, maybe 5 years from now, then from the sale proceeds, that person will finally get paid. And so I like to think of a lien as a leech. It's like a financial leech that grabs on. So when you go to buy a house, the lender wants to be in the first position on the house. They want first dibs on any money if you sell that house. And so they basically, as a condition of your loan for your house, you have to pay off any old garbage that you had so that the bank is in what you call first position, because the legal system follows a first come, first served basis for the most part. Whoever the oldest judgment was that gets filed and gets appropriated, then they're going to get the money first, and then to the next person, and then to the next person. So that's kind of how the legal system works with these credit reports, and how that's part of our property as we go through life in the United States, with how bills can ultimately get paid. And it's usually through the purchase of real estate is how that eventually kicks in. Does anybody got any questions there? That's probably a little bit of information overload, but I used to do this stuff for a living, so I can't help myself. And we're looking at credit reports, and these credit reports can be pretty confusing. So it's good to just have a little background on that too. Okay, back to our Where's Waldo here. Let's see. Look to see if this person has any of the following. Does this person have an automobile loan, a mortgage, or a bankruptcy? We already saw the bankruptcy. Was there an automobile loan? Go to the chat box for that. Everybody's looking hard. Is there an automobile? Are you seeing anything auto related? No, there's nothing there auto related, I don't think. Again, it's been a while since I've done it this way, so I have to look myself. And so we had those judgments, but we didn't have a mortgage lien also. So there's no evidence of a house loan there. Where does this person work? Where does this person work? Space Patrol, where'd you get that? Michael, why don't you unmute?
That one. So it says his former addresses where it says additional information, and then it says last reported employment engineer Space Patrol.
All right. So companies that right here, last reported employment engineer Space Patrol. Good. So that's on there too, where you've been working. And so this is for when you put in those applications, right? For like, it sounds like I'm going to have somebody maybe new come into my rental property. So they fill out a rental application and they say, where are you working? And you put your thing down there. Now, if the creditor pulls your credit report, they can verify that you weren't lying, right? That you didn't work at Ottawa University or whatever. So they can double check that stuff. All right, so are there any inquiries on this report? Inquiries. So were there any inquiries, yes or no? Yes. So the inquiries are right below that. So these lenders, if you do a credit, if you have a credit with somebody, they can periodically pull your credit to see how you're doing. And so that's what an inquiry is. Or if you go to the mall and you buy something at JCPenney and they have, would you like to do our store card today? Right? And so you're right at the cash register, 10% off. Well, they will do an immediate pull of your credit, and that's an inquiry. Those count against your credit score. So the more that you're actively seeking credit, it can cause your credit score to drop. So the machine, the algorithm that's generating your score, it'll cost you a little bit of points to be putting more credit out there. So that's the inquiries part. Okay, so in general, is this person, what kind of credit do you think this person has? Would you say this person's got pretty good credit, okay credit, or bad credit? So good, bad, or okay. I got a bad from Samad. Let's everybody put something out there. Caleb says bad. Bad, bad, bad. All right, so yeah, bankruptcies tend to be something that's going to hold back. It shows that you know, something happened back in your life. Maybe it was a hospital bill and you didn't have a job, and it's not that you don't normally pay your bills, but you couldn't pay your bills or something. You know, we don't know all the backstory, but as far as the credit goes, it's probably not so hot. How many years out is the bankruptcy? How many years out is the bankruptcy? 5 years. Okay, so when does the bankruptcy drop off your credit? Do you remember that from the videos? So 7 years is kind of right, Abby. It will no longer affect your credit score, and then it'll drop completely off after 10 years. So around 7 years. So this person is 5 years into the 7-year place where the bankruptcy won't affect it as much. And so that bankruptcy is having less and less of a negative effect on their credit. So it does, the computer, again, the farther you are away from your bankruptcy, the less impact it'll have on your credit score. So the fact that this person's 5 years out is probably a pretty good sign. Their score is probably starting to come up if they've been responsible with others. But have they been responsible? What were these codes over here? R1, I1. Did you guys look down here? Look down at the bottom. So we've got a status of the account, an open account, a revolving account, an installment account. So an installment account is usually like a car loan. You agreed for the next 5 years to pay $325 a month, right? So it's fixed monthly installments. And then a revolving credit, the payment amount can change. And then an open account is the entire balance due each month. So American Express used to be kind of famous for that you just paid it off every month. And so a revolving account for a credit card is pretty standard. And then look at the timeliness of your payment. 1, 2, 3, or 4. 30 plus days is usually the bad part. 60 plus, 90 plus. So now if we go back up to this code up here where this person's credit is, notice that they've got an R3 on a current outstanding balance. They owe $3,000 to Chase, and they've got an R3. So it's a revolving account. How many days past due are they with an R3? Chat box. R3, how many days due are they around? $60 plus, good. So 60 days they owe some money and they're 60 days out. Does that look like a person with good credit? They currently have a balance that they haven't touched, made a payment on for 60 plus days. So that's probably hitting them harder than the bankruptcy at this point. So if you have outstanding bills and haven't paid them in 60 days, that's going to bring your credit score way down. So that's where how they keep track of the timeliness of your payments. Okay, that's about it for that. Any questions or comments on the credit report? So I encourage you all to pull your credit report. Some of you might have a 0 or sorry, there's not enough information. You'll still get your extra credit if you bring that in, and Abby and Samad, you can still bring yours in for me if you want. I usually just check a box. Probably since you two are the only ones who raised your hand and you spoke, I'll just take your word on it as long as I don't forget. Usually I check a box so that I remember, so you might remind me just so that we do. Josh, are you raising your hand?
How do you pull your credit report?
Okay, so go to freecreditreport.com is one way to do it. On the back of your, let's see, I guess I've got this open. Let me show you in here. So chapter 8 in the, I think it's in the e-text part. Let me go to the last page. Yeah, right here at the very end of the page 13 of the e-text and videos, they give you the 800 numbers for the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You can go to any one of those. All you have to do for this extra credit is just go to one of them. If you go to something like freecreditreport.com, you can check a box. You do not have to pay for any of this. They will try to, as usual, you guys are probably pretty preconditioned to this, that they'll say, for only $5 or $10, you can, get your credit score. I don't need you to get your credit score. You can do that if you want, but otherwise, I just want you to see the report. So what you're really going to be looking at is the data that we just did. You'll have a similar report like this. Most of yours won't be as long as what we just did because you won't have the credit history unless somebody stole your identity. Then you might have a big credit history that you weren't even aware of. So hopefully that won't be the case. Okay, any other questions? All right, so let's go ahead and get into the last video section. So again, those other ones, debt business here. So so here's an example. We've got, let me see, about as big as I can get it here. This is in your system too, but we're just going to do it on the side as a class and not have you do it individually. So might do a little chat box so you can be ready for that. So here we go. We've got Corey and Aaron have monthly income of $39.50 and necessary expenses of $36.75. So they kind of did their zero-based budget and their expenses are there. They also have $15,260 of debt with a total minimum payment of $360 per month. Unfortunately, that means there's just $275 left over after all expenses. Use the pro rata form to give each creditor a fair share of their disposable income. And then here's the individual debts. And so what this pro rata system is going to do is give us a way to tackle the creditors. So here's kind of the summary at the top. We've got our income, we've got our expenses, we've got $275 left over, but our monthly payments to our creditors are $360. So we either have to pick who's going to get paid or who's not. How are we going to survive in the meantime? So the pro rata system basically takes all of the debts. And so if you see over here, here's the total amount of debt to each creditor. And then dividing it by the total amount of debt gives you the percentage of your overall debt that you owe the creditors. So as we look here, that means we've got 4% to Discover, 10%, 18% to Visa, 21%, and then most of it's with this voting one, 47%. And now we're going to take that amount towards the 275 total of what I have, and then each creditor is going to get that payment. And so that is a technique if you're really in trouble to still kind of keep afloat for everybody getting a little bit of something. Does anybody got any questions on that so far? Now, if you're only 1 month behind, would you want to do this system right away? Go into the chat box. What do you get charged if you don't pay your bill in full at the end, or make your payment, not in full, but to make your payment? What do you get charged at the end? All right, some interest, yes. What else would you get charged if you don't make a payment at all? You're going to get some interest, but late fees is what I was looking for. All right, so we got late fees and potential interest. And so how much are those late fees? Go ahead to the chat box. Roughly, there's not a standard rate, by the way, but what have you heard late fees being for some of those types of payments? Just take a stab. 5 to 20. I think 5 would probably be pretty low. Yeah, that's a dollar sign. 20 sounds good. Not so much looking for a percentage, but actual dollar amounts is usually how late fees are stated. So you guys are a little under. Give me some dollar amounts on the chat box. 30 sounds about in the right place. They could be 45. I've seen them as high, 37, whatever. Each company's going to have their own. My point is that it's a significant amount of money. If you don't pay all 5 companies here, if you don't pay all 5 of these creditors, you're going to get 5 times 30 is $150 worth of late fees added on to your mess that you have already. And so if you're only 1 month behind, probably the better strategy for the short term is to pay 4 of them and let one guy not get paid. And that way you're only going to get one of those $30 fees. Again, this isn't ideal, but this is the situation where I've got a check coming in, I'll make that payment in next month or something, not where you're looking at, as Dave was saying in the videos, 5 or 6 months of not being able to make payments. Then you go into the pro rata strategy. All right, so that's what I wanted to point out there. So the next video section I'm going to have you guys do as your homework tonight. And what the video's going to kind of close with for chapter 5, let me get this thing on here, is legal proceedings. So we got foreclosure and bankruptcy, and then garnishment is the other one. So they mentioned garnishment. How many of you knew some people who have got their paycheck garnished? Show of hands. Yeah. So all of a sudden, not too fun. They just have their paycheck zipped out. Sometimes it could be for child support payments. Can be an automatic garnishment that the state can do. They mentioned that the feds, whether it's the IRS or for student loans, can do it a little easier than from a judgment lien. Like if somebody sued you or something, you can do the garnishment. I've been getting a garnishment check for about 10 years from a previous renter. Every month I get a check in for about $14, literally. And so the interest is higher than what she's been paying. And so the balance just sits there and she keeps paying it. And so she still owes the money, but it's just a check. And I think she's voluntarily putting it in. That's not I guess that particular one's not, I think she has it automatically deducted from her checking account or something. But my attorney gets it, he gets a third, I get 2/3. So my 2/3 is $14. And it's still trickling in from, oh gosh, it's not 10 years ago. I've been at OU for 10 years. This has been going on for like 15 years before I came to OU. So getting these financial things taken care of and having a little bit of this knowledge, you guys can not only help yourself, but help some other people too, which is kind of nice. So bankruptcy, how many of you know some people that have declared bankruptcy? Show of hands. So bankruptcy is kind of a last resort. So I just want you to have, and they're going to go through it in the next video, but it's just a legal proceedings where you use the court to, how should I say, orderly go through your paying off your bills. And so instead of getting, if you've got 5 different debt collectors calling you and you're freaking out or whatever, you can look for the court system for bankruptcy protection. And basically a judge is going to say, hey, I know he owes you $15,000, but all he has is $5,000. And they do a pro rata thing. That's why Dave uses this pro rata thing. Let's say you had $5,000 worth of debt and $15,000 was 50%. They're going to say, all he's got is $5,000. You're going to get $2,500 and you're done. Just write off that debt. That person is done. So that's what bankruptcy protection is. You do go to a judge, you use an attorney, they list all your debts. Some of your assets are protected. Now, Michael, you're not gaming, are you? I just want to make sure you guys look like you got something going on there. Josh, Michael, testing, Josh, Michael, testing. What game are you playing?
What game we're playing? What?
Yeah.
We're not playing any game.
Oh, you look like I thought we had the joystick.
I mean, he has the controller here, but we're not playing.
Okay. Well, good boys. I'm glad you're sticking right along with it here. Good job. Nice job. I know you were the esports fans and stuff, so I just wanted to make sure, a little double check there. With the bankruptcy, the judge will have everything in order, and you'll get $2,500 and you're done. But now your credit's going to be wrecked, as we saw earlier, but eventually it'll repair. So, and question from Samad: if you end up paying off what's due, do you get out of bankruptcy? So that's a good question. So bankruptcy is actually it's a kind of a one and done process. It might take you 6 months or something to get through the legal system with it. And so once you pay off all your debt, they can't come back from you. So you are totally paid in full. And the only thing that's remaining is that it does stay on your credit report. So it's going to be less likely that people are going to offer you more credit like a year out from your bankruptcy. So you might have to wait, like that person in our thing was like 5 years. And then at 10 years, it's completely off your system. You have basically a clean slate, and nobody from a legal standpoint knew that you ever did bankruptcy. So I kind of like that with our system, that you can have a fresh start in the United States. God bless America. If you make some mistakes financially or whatever, it doesn't stay with you till the grave. It is possible to do some repair. All right, so, but you'll never be able to get a loan or cosign until then. You can still get a loan. Actually, what's kind of disturbing and what people in bankruptcy should be aware of is that as soon as your bankruptcy clears and all your debts are gone, you will start getting a credit offer in the mail right away to get a new one, because they want to suck you back into debt. Because right now you have a clean slate in terms of you don't owe anybody. So you probably still have your job. It doesn't mean that you lose your job. You have your house, you have a car. They don't strip you of all of your assets. There are some things that are protected within bankruptcy. And so to some of the creditors, they want to be the first in line to, oh, let me give you a helping hand and help you get back into debt and kind of suck you back in. So yes, you can crawl right back in. You cannot declare bankruptcy a second time within, I think you got to wait 5 years. I can't remember that law exactly, but there's a period of time where you can declare bankruptcy again, but I think it's at least 5 years before you can do it again. Oh, the other thing, student loans, can you bankrupt out of them? Yes or no on the chat box. He said it in the video. Can you bankrupt out of your student loan debt? You've piled up $55,000 maybe to come to OU. Can you just hit the bankruptcy button? I see one yes, no from Michael. What else? Give me a couple answers. Let's have a vote here. Yes or no, you can bankrupt yourself out of your student loans. Right now it's a tie between Samad and Michael. No from Abby. Yeah, you don't have to Google it. You can guess. It's fun. It's okay to be wrong if you want. All right, Samad's back to no. So yeah, no, you can't. And maybe your yes was from something else I didn't know. But the federal government creates the laws, and then they're really good at creating a law that doesn't apply to them. So in the case of bankruptcy, you cannot bankrupt out of IRS income taxes, and you can't bankrupt out of your student loans. And so here's the thing, when you hear of people like, oh, I'm going to get a student loan because I want a new car, right? And so they get a $20,000 student loan. They didn't really need the money, but they wanted to get a car. And so they took out the money, got the car, and then wouldn't have to make payments. But guess what? When they run into financial trouble, it is no longer characterized as a car loan. It's a student loan. And so they can't bankrupt out of it. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people use student loans to try to pay for other things, but you're actually losing the bankruptcy protection if you ever needed to use that safety net in the future. All right, any other questions on bankruptcy? Or garnishment or foreclosure? Foreclosure is taking the property, kind of like the repo man coming for your car. All right, well, let's wrap up with a case study. So now pull out your piece of paper, I'm gonna have you turn these in. Okay, so let's see. Let's do Lauren. Lauren and the apartment. I got it on the screen here if you can see it. Lauren is 19 and never owned a credit card. She plans to move off campus next semester because she's tired of living in the dorm. The apartment complex she's inquiring about runs a background check and views the credit reports of all the prospective tenants. She knows her credit score is 0, and she's worried that that'll keep her from getting into the apartment. What can Lauren do to improve her chances of getting into the apartment? So what can she do? So just number one only, what can she do? So just handwrite this on a piece of paper. You guys can snap a photo of it and email it to me. I guess I could have done this on the chat box. Give me a number between 3 and 8.
4.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Taylor. You are the lucky contestant.
Hi, I feel so lucky. Since she has a 0 credit score, I think she should definitely bring like a bank account statement to prove that she even just has the cash in general.
Okay, good. What else would a bank statement possibly have that could help her? I think you're on a good track there.
It would prove that she has like a place of employment and also like different savings accounts.
Okay, different savings accounts, good. Anybody else want to add something that Lauren could do? I was thinking even something else than what Taylor said, but that's fine. How else? Go ahead, Josh.
I say pay cash.
Pay cash, okay. Yeah, they could pay cash, but if they're worried about like her credit worthiness, like is she going to pay her monthly payment, assuming she can't pay like 1 year's rent up front, I guess is the main thing. What else could she prove to show that she makes her payments fairly regularly and on time?
Her credit report.
Okay, her credit report. So what types of things would be on there? Well, and I got to be careful actually, because she says she's got a 0 credit, so she doesn't have a credit report. But what are some other things that she could get a record of that she makes her payments? We can do chat box, or if somebody wants to unmute. Raven?
She could show that she's like paid like her other rent on time and stuff.
Okay, other rent, yes. What other bills do you guys have monthly?
She can show her phone bill.
Yeah, your phone bill, your cell phone, maybe you have utilities or anything that you make regular monthly payments on. You can ask for a statement from them and it'll show your payment record. And though that's all they're looking for is just stuff like that. They've talked about, I don't know if it's on there yet, but they talked about adding those to the credit report. But at this time, credit reports are all debt. So if you're living debt-free life, you don't have that, which is fine. There's other things you can do to prove that you're worthy of getting that apartment. All right, well, why don't you guys go ahead? We'll call it a day there. Send